Welcome in, everyone, to Spiritual Roots Podcast with me, Misty. I hope you are all doing well today. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Today's topic is on ritual. This was a suggestion from a listener, so I'm so happy they reached out to me. Today we're diving into the beautiful and grounding question, what is ritual? And how can we weave simple intentional practices into both our spiritual lives and our everyday routines? So let's take a breath, drop your shoulders a little bit, and let's just get grounded as best you can. What is ritual? A ritual is simply an intentional act infused with meaning. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't need a dozen candles or a perfectly curated altar, unless that lights you up. At its core, ritual is a moment when you choose to step out of autopilot and into presence. Rituals anchor us, connect us with spirit, ancestors, or the natural world. They help us shift energy, mark beginnings, endings, or transitions. They bring comfort, clarity, and empowerment. Whether you're stirring cinnamon into your morning coffee or standing outside under the moon with your palms open, ritual is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. If you're just starting out on your ritual practice, if you're just starting to get into this a little bit or not sure where to go, like this listener had mentioned to me, it's best to start simple. And it can continue to be simple. Like I've always said in a lot of my episodes, these things don't have to be elaborate. They don't have to be high magic. They can be low magic. They can be just sitting at your altar. And I'm going to go into outdoor altars. I wanted to include that in today's episode, that it doesn't just have to be inside. It can be outside as well. So maybe you want to incorporate some crystals or herbs into your rituals, just to ease in or maybe expand a little bit on what you already do day to day. Let's dive into some crystals. Some well-known allies are clear quartz for amplification, clarity, intention setting, amethyst for spiritual protection, intuition, calming energy. Rose quartz for heart opening, self-love, and compassion. Black tourmaline for grounding, protection, and boundary setting. Some lesser known but powerful stones. Dambarite connects to angelic realms, supports emotional release. Priscelli bluestone, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's said to be part of Stonehenge, ancient energy, deep earth, and wisdom. Isn't that fascinating? Eudolite, healing old wounds, especially around identity and belonging. Crystals don't have to be rare or expensive. Their medicine and their energy and your intention is all you need. So if you have a local crystal shop near you, we're lucky enough in my town to have one. And there's one other shop that's well known in the area that I actually have a lot of my crafts in. And sometimes I do readings there. It's called Faye's Apothecary in Lebanon, New Hampshire. She also offers a lot of crystals. A friend of mine, Kristen, has her crystals set up there. The shop in my local town is in Enfield, New Hampshire, and they are called Crystal Moon. And Paul's really well known around these parts. He's not so much into the metaphysical. He's more about the mineral side of things, but a lot of beautiful offerings at his shop. So some herbs that you might be interested in incorporating into your rituals are rosemary for cleansing or memory, energetic and strength. Lavender for peace, healing, or dream work. Cinnamon for fire energy, abundance, and activation. Sage for purification. And you don't always have to use white sage. Garden sage is perfect. You can grow it on your own, which is even more beautiful. Same with rosemary and lavender. You can grow those herbs on your own, and it's a beautiful way to connect with them even more. Some lesser known herb allies are mugwort for intuition, dream journeying, liminal work. Demiana, I could be pronouncing that incorrectly also, I'm sorry. Heart and pleasure connection and sensual magic. Blue lotus for meditation and third eye opening. Yerba Santa, emotional healing, heart protection. And pine needles, I love this one. Cleansing, renewal, grounding, and forest energy. If you've listened to any of my past episodes, you know I love being outside. I love connecting to Mother Earth, standing under a tree, touching the ground, laying on the ground. I absolutely love that. It's my favorite. So let's touch base on some types of altars that you would like to set up that might resonate with you. Some indoor altars. They don't have to be big. A windowsill or corner table, the top of a dresser, any small sacred space where your energy gathers. That also could be your living room, if that's where your heart of your home is. That's where you gather. Maybe that's where you share conversation with your loved ones. It could be in the kitchen, where maybe if you practice, culinary arts, if that's your thing, if that's where your energy sits in your home. It could be a number of places inside. And you could have multiple altars if you wanted to. You could have one set at the east. You could have one set at the west. You can work with the directions that way. Do yourself a favor and do a little more research if this resonates with you. This is just a get started episode. I really encourage folks to go out and do your own research. Find some books, talk with people that are like-minded with you. If you know someone that already participates in ritual and you've talked to them about it, see what their practices are and see if any of those resonate with you. Some elements you may include are a candle, even a tiny tea light. I love tea lights. They're very inexpensive. They work so well, and they don't go on for hours and hours and hours. I think I've timed it once. Because one of my rituals that I really love doing, and unfortunately when I started to go back to the office, I've really fallen out of, and that's on me, is a gratitude candle that I would do every single morning. And I do still do them on the weekends, but I really love doing them on my days home. And I would light the tea light. I would stand at my window, which faces the east. The sunrise comes up there. It comes through my window. It's really bright in my room. And I would just sit there with the sun, with the candle in my hand, and I would just hold it cupped in my hand, and I would just say, I light this candle as an offering of my gratitude to my guides, to my ancestors, to all that I have, and I would list off what I'm grateful for that day, whether that's home, my animals, my friends, my family, the sun just simply shining on my face, or my knees feeling good that day. Whatever you're grateful for, light a candle. It can be as simple as that for ritual, honestly. It would include a crystal companion, an herb bundle, or a single dried flower, a symbol of something you're calling in, a small bowl of salt or water, a photo or object connected to ancestors or guides. So indoor altars are wonderful for daily grounding, moon phases, seasonal turning points, meditation, and healing work. Think of it as a spiritual charging port, and I love that. It's so true. After you do ritual, even if it's just lighting that candle, doing a few yoga poses, very small ones, maybe you can't get down on the floor, that's not an option for you, but I really love Root to Rise. It just grounds you, and then you just rise up, and I'll do that maybe 3 times. It's really beautiful. It gets the spine moving, gets the energy flowing from the ground up, and I really love that. Let's dive into some outdoor altars. Currently, it's wintertime here in New England. In the northern hemisphere, we have a lot of snow for December in our area. Usually we don't have this much coming so early into the month. It's beautiful. It's so quiet. I love winter for that. And this is a great time to maybe start an outdoor altar. When it's the quiet time of the year, maybe you want to start setting those intentions, or maybe you just want to start connecting with the birds outside. It's a good time to offer them up some bird seed or the critters that are running around. I have a lot of woodland creatures, and every morning this is one ritual I do. When I leave for work every morning, because I don't light that candle anymore, and my husband will catch me on the camera sometimes and he gets a chuckle, but I will step outside and I will say, good morning trees, good morning birds, good morning woodland creatures, and that's my moment to ground for a second before I take off for the long journey to work. I have a long commute, and it's my moment to communicate with the animals and the trees and the things that are on my property. And I love doing that, and my husband gets a kick out of it. So some outdoor altars. Altars connect your ritual directly to the elements, and they can be temporary or long-term. So ideas for outdoor sacred space: a stone circle, a tree stump offering space. I love that. That's a great way to use a tree stump. Put some crystals out there, some herbs. That's wonderful. A hidden nook where you can leave biodegradable offerings. I love that too. So if you are kind of in the closet a little bit about, being spiritual, I love that. Find a little sacred space, a little secret nook, and just put what calls to you. I love that so much. A small table or shelf in your garden, a dedicated spot for moon or sun rituals. Outdoor altars love pine cones, feathers, stones, fresh herbs, flowers, water offerings. Always leave nature-friendly items and avoid anything that can harm wildlife or linger as waste. So, be mindful also, as I think you are as listeners of this podcast. Be mindful of the critters outside. Look into what types of animals that are around you. Maybe you have an abundance of chipmunks or squirrels, or check into what kind of birds you have before you really start leaving out just anything outside. Make sure it doesn't harm them in any way. So a ritual doesn't have to require perfection. It only asks for your presence. So light a candle and declare your intention for the day. Place your hand on your heart and breathe 3 slow breaths. Touch your crystal before walking out the door. Sprinkle cinnamon in your tea with purpose, or any spice that calls to you. Whisper gratitude to the sky. Ritual becomes magic when you decide it is. And I connect with that. Anything can be ritual, honestly. Like I've said prior that, I put cinnamon on my toast. I add that in. That is part of a ritual for me. I whisper intentions into my coffee. There's a little prayer that I say each morning. I got this out of the Green Witch book by Erin Murphy Hiscock. I'll link that in the show notes. But I really connected with that prayer. I'm not going to say it here, but I suggest looking into that book, especially if you want to connect with outside. Maybe those outdoor altars are calling to you. Maybe that's something that you connect with. But it's a beautiful little prayer, and I say it every morning, and I highly suggest it. And that's a ritual that I do, that I like to do every morning. And it just sets my spiritual thoughts, and it just sets my soul for the day. I also included some journal prompts at the end of these sections for today. So I'm going to read those off, and if you want to take out your journal as part of your ritual, which we all know that I enjoy doing. So what everyday actions already feel like rituals in my life? Where do I feel most connected to spirit? Indoors, outdoors, or somewhere unexpected? What crystal or herb am I currently drawn to, and what might it be trying to teach me? If I were to build or refresh my altar, what energies do I want it to hold? What does ritual mean to me on a soul level? Why don't we take a break? I'm going to leave this all here with you. Write down those journal prompts if you'd like. Just take a second to maybe breathe, relax, whatever you want to do, and we'll come back in just a few seconds. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get into why ritual actually works. Rituals shift energy because they activate the senses. Smell of herbs, warmth of flame, texture of crystal. It focuses your intention through repeated action. It creates a container for emotions, healing, or transformation. Signals the nervous system, this is safe, this is sacred. It builds a spiritual muscle memory. When you show up for ritual, ritual shows up for you. And I truly believe that. When you start to get into a ritual, a routine of any kind, you really start to see the effects of it, don't you? It goes for any exercise, or, like I said, with journaling. Anything that starts to become a habit, you really do start to see the effects of that. That is so true. What about a ritual theme? So you're sitting down at your altar space or your sacred space, you're outside, wherever you are called, wherever you're comfortable, wherever you're choosing to do this ritual. What is the theme of your ritual? What is your purpose? Why are you sitting here? Why did you come to this space? Some of those themes may include a release ritual, protection, self-love or heart healing, abundance or attraction, creativity, ancestral connection, moon phases such as new beginnings, fullness, or letting go, seasonal shifts. Once you know the theme, everything else falls into place like stones in a circle. Let's build some framework around that, right? So here's a few steps that you can take to build that framework for your ritual. 1, create your space. Set up your altar, indoor or outdoor. This could be as simple as a candle, 1 crystal, 1 herb, a glass of water, something symbolic like a key, a feather, a coin, a shell, for example. 2, ground yourself. Close your eyes, place a hand on your heart or root chakra. Breathe slow and deep until your body loosens. 3, call in your energy. This might sound like, I invite clarity. I call in protection. I welcome healing. I am ready to release. Short, honest, and from your soul. 4, use your tools. This is where the elements come in. Fire, candles, burning herbs, transformation, water, cleansing, emotion or intuition, earth, crystals, stones, and grounding, the element of air for incense, breath, or intention. And I'm going to piggyback on these a little bit. Other ways that you could use these elements are for fire, creating a fire outside as long as it's safe, going swimming to use the element of water. I was in a mediumship reading once, and the medium that was doing the readings for us, she had mentioned, and this stuck with me because I had never thought of this, in the element of water, that she connects with, like say she's in the mountains, for example, swimming in a lake. She will slap her hands on the water and watch the ripples, and that awakens the water around her. It awakens the mountains because that energy has now expanded out, and I loved that so much. I really connected with that. I thought it was beautiful, and that it never had hit me like that before. So use the element of water for swimming to cleanse. I've done that before for summer solstice. I went with a couple of friends to a river once, and we just did small rituals. We built little fires on the beach. We swam. We said out loud what we were releasing. And that's a great way outside, weather permitting, to use the elements. Earth, sitting on the earth, using it that way, letting it absorb the energy that maybe you're trying to expel, if that's negative energy, sorrow, grief, whatever it is that you're trying to give back to the earth, lay on it. Talk to her. The element of air. So just breathing in the wind. You could also use the wind as gathering energy for your ritual. If it's a windy day, a stormy day, that's a great day to do a ritual outside. It can be small. Just make sure you bundle up if it's cold outside. But stormy weather is a great way to use the element of air to use in ritual or spell magic if that's what you're called to. 5, seal the work. This can be a breath, a prayer, a hand gesture, a touch of your altar, thanking your guides or the universe. 6, close it with gratitude. This completes the energetic cycle, and it roots the moment into memory. So that is a great framework, a basic framework to get started with ritual. If this is something that you're struggling with, where do I begin? That's a great framework. So write it down, put it in your phone, however you want to maintain that until you start using it, and then it starts to become memory for you. Let's go back to some herbs and some crystals for the ritual themes. Let's add a little a little bit of ally energy to this ritual. For release, you could use Apache tear or snowflake obsidian, lemon peel or agrimony. For protection, you could use Noomnite or jet, herbs, juniper or black pepper. For self-love and healing, you could use pink calcite, watermelon tourmaline, herbs, hawthorn or linden flower. For manifestation, pyrite or sunstone. Love those too. Those are so beautiful. Herbs, bay leaf or honey bush. For ancestral work, larvacite. I am terrible at pronouncing these. I am so sorry, everybody. Larvacite and smoky quartz. For herbs, tobacco. You can use it symbolically if needed, so you don't necessarily have to burn that. But that is great for ancestor work, tobacco. Rosemary for ancestral work and remembrance. Those are perfect. Let's take those elements, that structure that we just went over, and let's create the ritual for everyday life. Ritual doesn't always require a full setup. Sometimes the small, quiet rituals are the most powerful. For example, me stepping outside my door in the morning and saying what I say to the birds and the trees, very small, but it sets my day. So some morning rituals you could do are stirring cinnamon into your tea clockwise to invite abundance. Hold a crystal to your heart and say, I choose myself today. I love that. We could all use that sometimes, can't we? Pull a card, breathe with it, then carry its message into the day. I love pulling cards. That's also another ritual I do. I do a lot of small rituals, nothing huge, unless it's maybe a Sabbath that I'm really into, that I'm really feeling called to that year. I'll sit down and really do a really in-depth ritual, but it's very seldom that I do that. My life is hectic sometimes, and I just need to take small moments to be present and do a small ritual. So pulling cards is great. Pulling an oracle card if you're not into tarot. Tarot's not for everyone. Oracle decks are great. They give you the autonomy to depict what the card means to you in that moment. And tarot does that too. Let's not, get it twisted. It also does that, but there's more structure to tarot, where oracle is more open-ended and gives you more autonomy. And, maybe it jives more with folks using oracle decks. Some evening rituals. Wash your hands with intention to release the day. So using maybe some beautiful lavender soap or a special type of soap at night. I use at nighttime. Wow, I'm really getting into some things I do. I guess that's the purpose of the episode. So at nighttime, I use lavender magnesium spray. I use it in the morning as well. But magnesium is a great vitamin to bring into your everyday health. It's great for sleep. It's great for anxiety. I really do truly notice when I don't use magnesium. And I use a spray because magnesium, on a personal level, it upsets my stomach. So I use it on my skin. And it still has great benefits that way. Lay an herb bundle on your pillow for dreaming. Write down one thing you're grateful for, even the smallest things. Nature rituals. Leave biodegradable offerings at your outdoor altar. Whisper your intention into a leaf and let the wind take it. I love that so much. That's so fun. Touch your bare feet to the earth and let her recalibrate you. That is huge. If any of you listened to my episode with Amanda from Wild Willow Farm, she talked about aimless wandering. That is so fascinating. I really, really loved that, where you just go outside, you walk, and see where your spirit leads. But do that barefoot so that you also get that grounding as well. Go out barefoot, see where your soul takes you. Love that so much. Let it recalibrate. No moment is too small to become sacred, honestly. So let's go over some journal prompts for this section. So for soul work reflection, what theme or energy is calling to me most right now? What does my body feel when I'm in ritual? What sensations arise? Which element, earth, air, fire, water, do I naturally connect to, and why? If I could design a ritual that feels uniquely mine, what would it include? Where do I need ritual in my life the most? Release, clarity, confidence, rest, or something else? Let's take another break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about what doors we're opening with ritual. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for taking that break with me. Okay, so let's get back into what doors we might be opening with ritual. And I don't mean like, portals. I mean, what doors are opening for us when we invite ritual into our life? Some of the doors that can be opened when we start to incorporate ritual into our everyday lives are clarity, memory, ancestral connection, inner knowing, shadow truth, your higher self, the quiet voice you can only hear when the world softens. Ritual is not about forcing change. It's about making space for the change that's already trying to happen. You know, when you have that energy inside of you, you can feel it. You can feel that a change is happening. You don't know when, you don't know why, you just have that inner knowing. I think this really can start to open up those doors for us if you start to incorporate some sort of ritual in your everyday life. This is the part most people miss. Ritual doesn't create magic. Ritual reveals the magic you've been carrying all along. So it's opening yourself up to know yourself better, to realize things, to focus, to recognize, to come back to yourself if you've been feeling lost. Let's engage our senses a little bit. Smell. Scent memory. Burning mugwort during divination. Crushed rosemary for mental clarity. Cedar or juniper smoke for grounding. Scent speaks directly to the emotional brain. And that is so true, isn't it? Maybe you smell a certain perfume and it brings you right back to grandma or that aunt that you adored or that teacher that really treated you well and took you under their wing in school. Anything like that. For example, like sugar for me brings me back to my 3rd grade teacher because that was her cure for hiccups. She'd give you a teaspoon of sugar. Can you imagine that nowadays? Yeah. Oh man, you'd be thrown out of school if you were a teacher and giving someone a spoonful of sugar. But that was her homemade remedy. And looking back, I think that's amazing. I don't suggest it now, but I think that her bringing in homeopathic ways to try to cure something that's upsetting her children, that at the time, that's the early 90s, seemed safe. So the intention was great, but maybe not the outcome in today's standards. Scent speaks directly to the emotional brain. So let's go over touch, texture, and temperature. Cool crystals in the palm, warm candle jars, soft earth beneath bare feet. Touch roots the ritual into the body. Sound. Bells or chimes to clear energy, whispered affirmations, forest sounds or outdoor rituals, drum beats or heartbeat rhythms. Sounds shift the frequency, doesn't it? Even dance, right? Movement, all of these things. So sound, movement can really produce energy. So if you want to go into ritual feeling a little more upbeat, or you're really just trying to build a container of energy, get up and move around, do a little shimmy, do a little bell, shake a little bell. It's just a great way to raise that vibe when you're going into your ritual or whatever it is that you're intending on doing. And drum beat. Let's talk about sight. Candle flame, color-coded altar cloths, written intentions, shadow and light, dancing on the walls. That's always fun to watch. What a great grounding exercise that is. Watching your candlelight on the wall, it's beautiful. The eye focuses the mind, so that really starts to focus you in on what it is that you're intending to do. Taste. Herbal tea is part of ritual. Honey to seal a spell. Salt water for cleansing work. Taste is grounding and sensory anchoring. Your intuition, the sixth sense, my favorite. Your inner knowing, your body's whisper, your spirit's yes or no. Ritual is a conversation with this sense above all others. And that's so true, isn't it? Tapping into our third eye, our higher self, so that we have those inner knowings, especially if what we're trying to do is trying to get some answers of some kind or guidance. Sacred timing. When ritual is most potent. You don't have to follow cosmic timing. But when you do, the wind is at your back. Here are powerful moments to lean into. The new moon. Beginnings, intention setting, planting seeds. The full moon. Illumination, completion, expansion, release of emotions. The waning moon. Letting go, clearing, shadow work, breaking patterns. Waxing moon. Growth, momentum, and attraction. I've talked about it before. You could also follow the wheel of the year or just the seasons in general. The 4 seasons, you could follow those. Those are a great way to use the elements as well. Spring for renewal, summer for creation, autumn for release, and winter for reflection. So some personal timelines you could use for ritual. Birthdays, anniversaries, endings or beginnings, moments of intuition. The universe keeps rhythm, and you are part of that rhythm. So birthdays are a great way to do a ritual for yourself. You could do a tarot spread, an oracle spread. One thing that I started doing a couple years ago is on my birthday, I write a letter to myself, and I write it in as if it has already happened. And on my birthday, I open it up and read it. I have to admit that this past birthday, the prior letter I read for myself on my 43rd birthday, I opened it up on my 44th. I didn't accomplish too much, but that's okay. That's just the way that it goes. Sometimes your life ebbs and sometimes it flows. And I read the letter and I got a chuckle. I was like, no, didn't accomplish that. But that's okay, right? It's something to look forward to. It gives you some sort of guidance to work on for the year. But that sits on my altar space, and it says open on your 45th birthday. So I look forward to reading that, because honestly, I don't even remember all that I wrote in there. So it's a surprise. Use your birthday as a way to honor yourself. I think that's great. Anniversaries are wonderful. Endings or beginnings. What a great way to include ritual into your life for an ending or a beginning. If something has ended, whether, let's be honest, a marriage or a relationship of some kind, that could be friendship, or if there's the beginning of a relationship or a new friendship that's really meaningful to you. There are great ways out there. Trust yourself. How could you celebrate these things? Or how could you cut these things out if they're no longer serving you? Some shadow rituals that you could use, especially in this time of year with winter being here. So not all ritual is light and softness. Some rituals help us confront the parts we've tucked away. Shadow rituals include burning limiting beliefs, naming old wounds. That's a huge one. I struggle with that, to be honest. Journaling the truth you've never spoken aloud. I think that could be very cathartic. You could write that down and burn that shit. Reclaiming power from old versions of yourself. Huge. Working with darker crystals like black obsidian, healer's gold. Herbs that support this work are wormwood, myrrh, thyme, and patchouli. Shadow rituals aren't scary, they're liberating. They help you step out of old skins. Right? We're leaving the year of the snake right now. I don't know about some of you, but 2025 has not been the best for me personally. But, like I said, we're coming out of that. I've said that in a prior episode. We're coming out of that now. And we're coming into the year of the horse. And who's stronger than a horse? right? When I think of horse energy, I think of Clydesdales. They're strong. That's what comes to mind for me. They're strong workhorses. They're very prominent, aren't they? If you've ever seen a Clydesdale, they're beautiful horses. That's what I'm going to tap into this year for Year of the Horse. What if your altar needs a refresh? What if it's evolving with your spirit? So maybe your old altar isn't working for you anymore and you need to refresh it. You could evolve it by refreshing when the seasons change, your intention shifts. That's a big deal. Maybe you are going for abundance and that has come to you and you're okay where you are now and you want to focus on something else. Your energy feels stagnant. Say you've had those same old crystals, it's dusty now. Or if it's outside, maybe a lot of those biodegradable objects have now decayed and gone back into the earth. It just needs a refresh. You're starting a new spiritual chapter. That's another big one. Maybe you've done that shadow work. Maybe you're in a better space. Maybe your spiritual soul has shifted in some way. Include some new crystals, a seasonal herb, a symbol of what you're calling in, a handwritten note from your present self to your future self. There we go, back to that birthday letter. Altars are living beings. Treat them like sacred companions. Let's talk about your soul's language. Personal symbols. We all have symbols that speak directly to our spirit. Here are some examples. Keys, some feathers or something that speaks to you color-wise, seashells, sun or moon motifs, coins, knots, animal allies, written words, always so powerful. Your symbols choose you. Pay attention to what keeps showing up. What's your soul whispering? I think these are great questions to ask. Your altar space, these rituals, in summation, it's really all about you and what calls to you, what you're comfortable working with, and then expand on that once you've learned something. Maybe you've mastered, that outdoor altar and you want to go somewhere else. Maybe you want to go a little further into the woods to explore. Maybe you started out on the outskirts because it's safe there. Whatever the case may be, it's really about where you're at, your head space, your spiritual space, your heart space, and what you're comfortable with and what's really calling to you and what your intention is. That's really what ritual is. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be grand. Just simple, small acts. So I'm going to leave you all with some final journal prompts for this section. What door am I ready to open within myself right now? Which seasons feel most powerful in my rituals, and which ones do I want to explore more deeply? What sacred timing feels aligned with the chapter I'm in? What part of my shadow is asking to be seen, honored, or healed? What symbols keep showing up in my life, and what might they mean for my spiritual path? That is all I have for you today, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. This was actually kind of fun for me. I'm pretty energized today. You could probably tell by my voice. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being with me, and you all take care. Thanks for coming along for the ride, travelers. If you're enjoying the show, please share, like, or leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, or come join me over on Patreon, where you'll get show updates and have early access to new episodes every Thursday. You can also find me on Buy Me a Coffee. If you have ideas for the show or would like to say hello, you can email me at spiritualroutespodcast@gmail.com. Please keep sharing the show so we can keep finding our spiritual roots together.